Hello, you're welcome to the Progressive Mind Show. My name is Senna, aka Alinko, and today we will be talking about Ghana affairs again. Last week we were here, no, I think last 2 weeks ago we were here to discuss what's going on in Ghana, and today we want to continue that conversation. We were not able to fully exhaust the the purpose for which we were here, and of course, we will not be able to ever complete the conversation when it comes to Ghana affairs in regards to our economy, politics, and socio-cultural activities. However, we will attempt to deal with some of the issues that is concerning the state of Ghana affairs as we speak. And today, we are privileged to have on the show a veteran. On this show, he's a veteran. He's a regular member, Daniel AMPOSAH, who is a USA MPP communication member, and Evans SARFO Edu, also a communication member for the NDC party here in the USA. We'll be looking at the country from the diaspora perspective. And so, gentlemen, you're welcome to the show.
Thank you, Senna.
Thank you, Sana. Thank you.
Welcome. We will also have we'll also ask our audience to bear with us as we have been experiencing technical challenges lately, and reason why we had a slight delay in the show. We will do our best to go through this. If the challenges persist, we may have to do a shorter version and then come back. This is very unfortunate. We've been working on it all day, but we will do our best as we attempt to talk about some of the issues going on. Firstly, I would like Evans, who the first time Evans, I'd like you to give us your brief overview of what you see of the state of Ghana affairs today.
Senna, thank you for having me. Thank you, Daniel, my co-host, and greetings to viewers and listeners across the globe. Greetings to my NDC family in the diaspora in Ghana. My short overview, Senna, this evening is not this. It's just about sad news coming from Ghana. If you look at the motherland from where we are sitting, children have reopened school. Parents are struggling to pay fees. New taxes have been initiated in Ghana. So it's all about the hardships. And the pressure from where we are sitting in the diaspora when parents, friends and family call you, reach out to you for school fees. It's a headache, So that's the impact. That's what I see this Sunday evening, going into tomorrow, where parents and children will get ready and take their kids to school. Challenges, yeah. That's nothing but sad news from the motherland, yeah.
Daniel, he said nothing but sad news from Ghana. How about you?
Yes, Sana, I can understand that the state of affairs is not as we expect it to be, but then there's a reason why it is what it is. So it's a difficult time. I mean, no two ways about that. I mean, if you want to be very honest with the facts on the ground, these are hard times, and these hard times are here. And I think that the best that one can wish for is to make sure that we can ameliorate the difficulties and then get people through these times and then secure back our economy and then continue progress on the things that we promised to deliver to the Ghanaian people. So, Sana, it's hard across the board, even for people who call themselves middle class. It's not an easy time this time, and so we'll see how we get around all these difficulties.
Okay, so both of you agree that Ghana is going through a very treacherous time. Now, I think it would be fair to say, to make this comparison real quick, as of 2017, 2018, when the new government came into power, prior to that, Evans, let's compare the economy then to the 6 years or 7 years that the new government, this present government has been in power. You were saying today is sad. Would you say that relatively it was sad around that time, only that this time is sadder?
We were doing fine, man. Senna, we live in America. We are economists, we are engineers, we are smart people. We've been to school, right? When John Mahama left power to President Akufo-Addo, the dollar was 4.23, 2.5, 4.25. In today's dollars, it's 11 plus. I mean, from where I'm sitting, that is my off the cuff comparison. It means we don't have an economy. If you look at the depreciation rate and all that, and that's where people even have a problem with Vice President Baumia now. He's run away. He's not even talking about the economy no more, because he sat on podium in university lectures, giving touting credentials how to fix this economy, but he couldn't do the job. But even if you look at what has actually brought us over here, Senna and Danny, I mean, I know he knows this better than me. Look at the borrowing up until the 2020, before they did the first Eurobond. You could realize that Ghana had a lot of credit worthiness, if you look at economic terms. So we could borrow. We had, fiscal space to borrow. So they went ahead on a spending spree and they borrowed till we couldn't borrow anymore. Now we are under the OXY plane. We are in the, negative, of the Cartesian plane. So we are below negative zero. So that's where we are at if you look at it in terms of, the OXY plane and in economic terms. So indeed, we've gone back to a level, never have we seen this level before in our economy in Ghana, in the history of our country. To the extent where, as we speak now, bond owners are still, calling this government out. There might be demonstration this week, according to Professor Dr. Edu Entry, the rep for the local bond holders. So things are tough, my brother. Yeah.
Daniel, would you? I'm sure you probably have an opposing, I would say, opinion. Was Ghana better off? I mean, definitely. If it's sad today, then it's no brainer to say that yes, that we were coming from a better place. Would you agree to that?
Yes, but yes, in context, right? So this is the thing that about when you're doing economic analysis, you've got to be very careful about the trajectory of things and understand your history of things, where you've come from. So everything we do in economics, for the most part, even in social sciences, we try to do comparative analysis, right?
Yep.
Which essentially is an exercise of relative analysis relative to something. You say something is better or something is worse, right? But your starting position might not be the optimal position, but you might have made some improvement or enhancement on that position, and you will say that, oh, relative to that position, where I am now is better. It doesn't mean that that original position was your best world, right?
Having said that, which is very, very good. So anytime we do this show, I learn a lot from you. So having said that, let me help put the contest in. Let me help make create a contest which would perhaps benefit your argument, which is when it comes to the standard of living of Ghanaians. And I think that's where we should maybe look at it from. You are free to take it through from other perspectives as well.
Yes. So okay. Thank you, Sana. So always you must understand these things, and if you don't understand these things, then that's why I always say people will have unrealistic expectation and then expect some things to happen and it doesn't happen and then they are surprised. So you have to really understand things in context, and because that is why, and I always give this typical example, that is why in America 7% inflation is a big deal, but in Ghana it's a normal situation for the people of Ghana. The same 7%, right? We're talking about 7%, right? But in context, in America, 7% inflation is a big deal. It's like a no-brainer. You can't even begin to justify 7% inflation in an economy like America, because historically they're used to 2% inflation. So if you move from 2 to 7, that for me, it's like unheard of. It's like unprecedented, and it can break things, right? But in Ghana, if you have inflation of 7%, that is your best word, right? So you see why context is very important when you're dealing with economics. You have to understand context. Ghana, our inflation is 50%, right? America, I doubt they will ever get to 50%. The 50%, our normal inflations have been 12. The best we've had is 7%, 9%. right? Our normal inflation has been around double digits. That has been in the context of Ghana's situation. So what I'm saying is that prior to IMF or prior to where we are now, we were in a certain position. That position was not our best position, but relatively it created stability. It created a sense of hope. It created a sense of, yes, if everything remained normal and we continue like this, we would at some point move out of this state of equilibrium and move to another higher level equilibrium, which is a far superior equilibrium than where we came from. So the point I'm making to you is that, think about it. Before the MPP started, Ghana was with the IMF, right? When the MPP came. So Ghana had domestic issues. They had big domestic issues that they had to deal with. They had not finished dealing with those domestic issues, but there was a sense of progress towards, overcoming those big domestic issues. Some of it were your banking crisis, your energy debts, your economy, and that kind of stuff. So Ghana relatively was making progress. And therefore, within that period, you could see a sense of stability, a sense of, assurance that, yes, we're on the right track. But then that bigger issue had not fully resolved itself. And then on top of that, whilst you are doing that and you are borrowing your way through, hoping that things will work, hoping that that current state of affairs will project itself into the future, you don't get that. You get two big shocks that hits your economy, and then on top of your domestic issues that have been unresolved, it spiral your economy into a very precipitate situation that you have to deal with, and then the consequence is what we are living with here, with all the attendant difficulties that people are complaining about.
Thank you, Daniel. I don't know if Evans has a response to it, but the context in which he took it was perhaps the standard of living of Ghanaians and then the American standard of living contest. Would that be fair to say that was
no? You can't even compare apples to oranges, Senna. To my good friend Danny, he actually went off tangent. The inflation rate in today's Ghana cities is 53% as we speak. You ask yourself, where did President Akufo-Addo and his Vice President Bawumia take it from when JM handed power to them? There's a conventional wisdom where they say, if it's not broke, don't fix it. You can, be in government, just sail on, Remember, Sena, we had a working IMF program under JM. And actually, President Akufo-Addo was so lucky, he got the last tranche of about $650 million.
Yeah, after he left. After Mahama left.
Look at all these windfalls. Too much money for a small economy like ours. If you are not spending and you are doing capital investments, you should be fine. Okay, you should be fine. And to the extent where our unemployment rate has gone up to 34% as we speak. So you are in Washington, D.C. now. The Parliamentary Caucus on Finance, they are in Washington, D.C. now as we speak, trying to still, Koko Kwati and Co., they are in Washington, D.C. as we speak, trying to talk to the IMF to at least have a working program. And the sad part about that, Sena?
No.
This crop of MPP men that we have, they don't even have the capacity and the skill set to deal with IMF, people, to the extent where the back and forth has been, such an eyesore, where you think, you can't even negotiate where you have a baseline where, like my brother said, an optimal solution where, like President Mahama and Co did. Go back to the drawing board and see how they did it, because it's been recent. If you don't have nothing at all, go back and see how the last team, Professor Butchie Dems, did it, and you try to tweak and make something workable. Look at the back and forth.
So can we is it fair to say that under prior to Nana Akufo-Addo's government, this current government that we are under at this moment, what we had under ex-president John Mahama, that economy and the standard of living, based off some of the indicators that you guys have mentioned today, the people were having a better way of life or a better standard of living compared to today. Would that be a fair statement to say? And would you gentlemen, would both of you agree to that statement?
Yes, I agree. I think it was
Daniel,
not it was not perfect. It was not heaven, but it
okay,
was better than
it
today.
was better.
Yeah.
Daniel, would you agree to that?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay,
if you look at the facts of like the numbers, the interest
the
rate,
numbers.
inflation,
Okay,
and
good.
all, yeah, I mean
Okay, so
that's true.
okay, great. Now, some are also saying, like, so to the point you made, Daniel, earlier, that COVID and the Ukraine war, and this has been the argument of the current government and its supporters, that yes, these two world uh, incidences have really affected everybody, including Ghana, because some would say or argue that 2018, 2019, the Ghanaian economy was doing very well. At a point in time, actually 2018, Ghana's economy was tutored to be one of the most fastest growing economy in the world, if not Africa. Correct me if I'm wrong. 2018. Now, would you attribute that to the efforts of His Excellency Nanado's government, or you will say that those moments were the remnants of the economic foundation or the economic, I'll say, the project and the economic policies that ex-President Mahama had put in place? I'll start with you, Daniel.
Yeah, I mean, you can, depending on what you're looking at, there can be some argument that what there could be some positive thing you derive from a government that you inherit, right?
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Okay.
so it's not always to say that. I mean, it's zero, completely zero.
Okay.
At least if you looked at the IMF program that the MPP
Yeah.
inherited from the NDC, they started it somehow, but they
All right.
couldn't meet all the requirements. It was the
Okay.
MPP that had to finish up most of the work. You
Okay.
know, so there's like, and if you look at, I mean, the additional oil discovery that Mahama made, obviously that was going to, I mean, impact positively on MPP revenue, right? So some things will run through, and I mean that is part of governance. That is why governance is a continuum. Like John Mahama, when he came, Kufuor did oil for John Mahama and Atamils. Kufuor never inherited oil revenue, so things will run like that from one administration to another administration. The most important thing is after you inherit such things, how you manage it and how you enhance upon them. I think that is where the argument needs to go. Not to be flippant about it and be like, oh, somebody did. Of course, somebody will have to do something for somebody to continue from somewhere. But how you manage the bigger issues that you inherit and how you manage the good ones, and collectively, when you weigh the positive and the negative, the net effect is what we have to look at, and not just try and dismiss everything and not see anything good when, in fact, there's something good that can. I mean, we can all share in it in that sense.
That makes sense. Thank you. I don't know, Evans, if you don't have any response to that, let me move on to the next question, which is three new taxes have been passed.
I have a rebuttal.
Please go ahead,
my brother Daniel. So let's face it, governance is a continuum. Okay, you come, you do your part, you leave, and then when you get a chance to come back, you continue from where you left off.
Yeah,
we get that. But the question is, how have we gotten to where we are today? Keep in mind, it didn't just happen in a vacuum. We had a working economy that was not the best, but it was doing fine until MPP came in and took us where we are. But even the question about COVID and Russia-Ukraine war, I don't even see the impact to Ghana, apart from supply, chain disruptions. There's no impact. So that's why I wanted to interject. My brother. Yeah.
Okay. So you would say that the war and COVID has now impacted the economy. Daniel.
I disagree. I mean, there's no way you can even make that argument and it will hold water. And Sarah, think about it. The people who are at IMF that are trying to support us with the program, they are not dumb people. They even have more data than you and I do. They survey, they scan the world economy, and they know what is going on in every place. I mean, when it comes to this, economic impact and what this COVID and other things have brought on countries. That's what I'm saying. They have a lot of data. They have the capacity to survey and look at this data across board, even beyond you and I, what we can comprehend. So they are not dumb people for you to think that they can just sit there and somebody can go and deceive them and say that COVID has no impact on Ghana. That argument, if I hear it, it just makes me feel like if you don't even understand your problem, how are you even going to start a solution when you don't even know what has caused you your problem? The problem we are saying is that COVID is not the sole thing that has brought us here. Before COVID, we had domestic issues. We had big domestic issues that we're resolving. COVID only came as an accelerator, or it came to facilitate us to get to our PCP quickly. So COVID, in that sense, COVID has an impact, but doesn't mean that COVID created all the problems that we have now.
Daniel, can you mention maybe two of these big domestic issues that we were Ghana had as a result? These two you mentioned big domestic issues. Can you mention two of them?
Yes, son, I just told you that before COVID, you had a big banking crisis that could have collapsed the economy if it were not well managed. And then you were dealing with that issue. You were
yeah. We can hear you, Daniel.
Okay, you were dealing with that issue. And then on top of that, I just told you that you also, apart from that, you also had huge energy debts that you were dealing with, right? Okay. That you had to deal with. Otherwise, if you don't deal with the energy debt and find a way to get around it, your economy too will still have issues to deal with. And then, not just that, you also inherited debts that you need to manage. On top of that, you had the government itself trying to implement its own policies, right? Its own, policies that it promised to the electorate when it went into the election of 2016 or even 2012. And so government also had spent some additional resources to get this thing going. That was what, of course, led to some of the borrowing. Whilst trying to manage old debt. On top of that, Sana, the other critical thing that people often forget is that you were also doing all the timing of it in an election. And Sana, you and I know historically, in an election year, every government, for some reason, have taken advantage of election year, to overspend. And we saw a bit of that in our election expenditures. That, yes, there was some overspending in the election year. So if you put all these things together, and then on top of that, COVID comes and it takes you, to that point where you have these issues to manage already, and it's hitting you on top of that, it's going to lead you to, where we are now. And think about it. Before that, you had the IMF said, we are at the risk of what? High distress debt, right?
But IMF also gave you about 300 million, and World Bank also gave, right?
That's why I was coming.
I'm coming to that.
Okay.
So
that's why I was coming.
300 million. Do you think that 300 million?
It wasn't just IMF. It was IMF and the World Bank. It's two separate entities gave us money.
That's what I'm saying. They gave you money, but you think that even the 3 billion that the IMF is promising to give you, it's not going to solve all your your existing challenges that you have.
So you were saying that the 300 million plus that the IMF and World Bank gave us to cushion us during COVID was not enough to help the government recoup and recover, right?
No, it's not enough.
Okay.
Given that if you shut your economy down for 2 days, do you know what that means in terms of the ripple effect and the legacy effect?
Well, okay, let's have David Evans respond.
Senna, thanks for the opportunity again. So where I disagree with my brother Danny is where there has never been a point in our life where we've received so much inflows, free money, than when COVID hit. This government took about almost $6 billion, in dollars from donors, even internal generated, locally. See how we're paying so much money to go to, Ghana, the testing on arrival, all that money's it's huge. So let me tell you something. There's a school of thought that this government might not get this 3 billion IMF deal. I'm telling you. Because if you look at where they sit and they look at where just 2 years ago, all this money, you couldn't do nothing with it. You were spending money, sharing money to party apparatchiks, doing fanfare without, doing real capital investment. So that's what we are getting now.
So,
and let me tell you about why I disagree that COVID, the Russia-Ukraine war, didn't affect us. What are the common use items that we import as a nation from Ukraine directly? The only impact was where the international supply chain was cut from China to the US, and then it affected, Ghana. And keep in mind, we had increased taxes so much. I know you are coming there. Where the Ghanaian consumer was smart, they stopped importing because the dollar was going up too. And that's part of the reasons why we are where we are today.
I think wheat.
Sana,
I think wheat and maybe wheat is one of the main products that we import from Russia, isn't it?
Sana, that's a narrow view of, I mean, trying to trace the impact of COVID on our economy. It's really narrow, and I can understand why he insists it never had any effect on us, because he has this narrow.
It was a negligible impact. Yeah.
He has the narrow view about the impact of COVID, and that's unfortunate. If you don't even understand the problem of what COVID brought to us, then how are you in a position as a opposition party to even come and solve the problem in case the Ghanaian people decide to give you power?
Daniel,
yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, but I want to push you a little bit before you go on, right?
Okay.
COVID did affect all economies globally. In Africa, of course, even very struggling economies, like struggling smaller economies is what I'm trying to say, than that of Ghana, were all impacted. However, our city seemed to be the worst performer in the entire sub-Saharan Africa, if not the entire continent, as is one of the least performing currency. However, everybody else we were all affected by COVID. How is it that smaller economies have been able to recover somewhat, as with their currency being an indicator, and ours still struggling with our currency being that indicator? Because that, if not for anything, we can understand that the fundamentals of every economy is its currency. We can learn that from the Vice President, Dr. Baumia. So how is it that our currency is one of the lowest performers when it comes to sub-Saharan Africa?
Yes,
if COVID hit everybody equally.
Yes, Sana, COVID didn't hit everybody equally, but it hit everybody. So we can talk about and the impact of COVID on countries will vary, right? It will vary depending on your relative position, or what we call what cycle of the economy you were in before COVID even hit you.
Okay.
It's going to vary. If you were in a particular cycle that you were in a recovery stage and COVID came, it has its own impact on your economy. If you were already down and COVID came, it's even double whammy for you. You get what I'm trying to say? Depending on the relative cycles of countries, I mean, before COVID hitting them, they will have varying impacts. And this varying impact and the timing of when this impact trickles down to the economy will vary with countries. And so now let's come to the specific case of Ghana. I mean, context here again. The specific case of Ghana, like I said, my brother Evans has a narrow view of the impact of COVID by just tracing imports to our country. Imports is just one aspect of the equation. When COVID came, Evans or Senna, we had to take domestic measures to protect our people and to protect lives. We had to spend internally. We had to shut down borders. We had to close down, schools. We had to pay people for not doing any productive work. But it was necessary evil. That is all part of the cost of COVID. You just don't say because we import things and we don't import a lot of things from. And Ghana was praised as one of the countries that put in the right measures. Very important measures and very admirable measures that even the World Health Organization had cause to use Ghana as a reference model. You think that came at no cost to Ghana? It was just by policy or by word. We had to put money in those things. We had to print, nose marks. We had to disinfect places. Look at all the things that we did. So sometimes we are quick to look at the revenue side of things and forget to look at the cost side of things. You tell me that you were raking in, money from the airport because you were charging people. But you forget that the test kits that were used came at some cost. Have you tried to compare the cost and the revenue from that exercise to see what that meant? You're only looking at the revenue side. But I don't think the whole argument has to be just on revenue. When we talk about the cost, sometimes the cost center is not just money that you pay directly as an outlay. The cost could be the economic activity that was lost within the period. That economic activity, if they were in place, would have created a certain momentum in your economy and would have pushed your economy much faster to probably grow. You've lost all of that opportunity. All of that is gone because you have to deal with a crisis that nobody knew where the end was going to be. Everybody was managing it without knowing precisely where this was going to end us all. So there was uncertainty, a lot of uncertainty at the time. But Senna, the reason why our city was impacted a lot more is because we are exposed to the dollar in so many ways. When I
Okay.
say we're exposed to the dollar in so many ways, we as a country, like he said, we are somehow reliant on import. So that is one aspect. We already know that. I'm not going to go into that. But also think about that before COVID, we could not get concessional loan because we had attained a middle income status. And therefore, the way we were financing our budgets and the way we were, managing our liability on the balance sheet side, what we call the liability management approach, was to use the capital market, the Eurobond market. So most of our loans that we borrowed externally to bring them domestically to free interest rate and to try to borrow. That strategy that we adopted meant that we became dollar exposed because most of our borrowing were tied to Euro bonds and that kind of stuff. And if you look at our debt structure out of the time COVID hit, it was about 50-50, right? 50% domestic debt and about 49 or 51%, 49 domestic debt, 51% what foreign debt. And most of this foreign debt were in foreign denominated currency. So our exposure to the euro, to the dollar was, or to any foreign currency was already high. So if COVID hits you and you have, what do you call it, supply chain effects impacting and tripling into your economy because of high cost of imports, and at the same time you can't go to the euro market and borrow because that was your only source of financing some of your domestic expenditure and the high cost of project that you were embarking on in your country, then of course your situation is going to mean that you are going to be very at the mercy of the of the external or of the dollar of the exchange. In some other countries, they are not dollar exposed like that.
Okay.
If you go to Ivory Coast, they are not dollar exposed because they don't do much more. They because of their CFA, right? And the monetary, exactly. So the structures are different. You've got to understand these differences. Otherwise, you just mix up thing and do a blanket comparison, and you will be misleading yourself.
All right, let's have Evans come in.
So my brother Daniel, he has a benefit of hindsight. He's talking after the fact, and we cannot do that. It's just a matter of academics. You had all these monies coming into the economy. You were using it for fanfare and political sloganeering. Giving it to party apparatchiks without investing in your own Ghanaian people. You didn't invest COVID money that you got into the Ghanaian economy, period. It was a wasteful exercise the whole time. On top of the nuisance COVID testing on arrival, when people travel miles and miles, they come home and you go through testing and you are taking so much money from them. You have a family of 4, that's almost about $500 right there. So you took all these monies without investing in your people. If you look at the Auditor General's report that was presented to Parliament, you see where the monies went. Kojo Ponkruma, Minister of Finance, Minister of Information was sitting there sharing money in risk allowance, COVID money that was meant to be given to doctors and nurses and people that are working overtime, under emergencies. So clearly, my brother Daniel is talking from hindsight and trying to polish it, but the government was not proactive, and we can't give them the opportunity to lead. They lost the opportunity to lead. So that's all I got on that level.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. We have done about 36 minutes into our show this evening. This is the Progressive Mind Show. Here is where we build our communities through dialogue. And this afternoon, we are talking the state of Ghana affairs. We are looking at it from the diaspora perspective. I have 2 great gentlemen, one representing the NDC party here in the United States, in the person of Evans SARFO Boedu, and Daniel AMPOSAH, who is also a spokesperson or a communication member for the MPP party here in the United States. If you just joined us, you can contribute to the show on 815-277-5047, 815-277-5047, as we discuss Ghana. And again, gentlemen, thank you for your submission so far. And I'd like to look at, let's talk about taxes. So Daniel, I was going to ask you earlier that recently, about 3 weeks ago, correct me if I'm wrong, at least 3 or a month ago, the government imposed 3 additional taxes to already the several taxes that's currently in the system that the country feels they have been burdened with, right? Because we have, in my lifetime as a Ghanaian, I never heard about baller taxes, sanitation taxes, and all kinds of taxes. Even the new one that came recently, which is the one for the mobile phone. Evans was the name.
Talk tax, yeah.
Yes. So we have. So Daniel, would you say that it was fair for Ghanaians to be imposed on these three new taxes, considering the economic hardship? Because we all agreed that the country is not doing well economically and the people are struggling. Would you say that was a fair move or policy by the government?
Yeah, tax have implications. I mean, so what is fair? I mean, and from whose perspective are we measuring fairness? I mean,
But from the people of Ghana.
yeah, but I can assure you that there's not been any tax that any taxpayer has ever deemed as fair. Every taxpayer necessarily wants to avoid taxes. That is by nature.
In this country, though, you and I in America, we hardly will complain about. We may say property tax is high in some communities, but that depends on you. It's your choice. If you can decide to live in an expensive community and pay high taxes, or go to another place. Regardless of the issue, regardless of the case, you would have a decent place to live and pay your taxes. People hardly complain about taxes here, and before taxes are imposed, it goes through rigorous measures. You have the right. The people have the right to demonstrate whatever. But I think the point I'm trying to make here is that, from what you were saying, it sounds like you were saying, why should people complain about taxes? Here, nobody complains because your taxes. Nobody complains in the sense that people are not overly on the street shouting about, we have too many taxes, we have too much high taxes. The thing is that we all understand that here, everybody has an expectation of local government or federal government that taxes will be put to good use, which we see on a daily basis. We see our taxes being put to good use. So people hardly complain about their taxes. So I just wanted to say that from the argument that you started, you were coming from. Ghanaians are not necessarily crying because they don't want to pay taxes.
Yeah, Sana. So that is the thing about governance, right?
Okay.
So if somebody takes your taxes,
Mhm.
and I have always been an advocate for everybody paying taxes, because that is how you hold governments accountable for how they use your taxes.
Okay.
If just a few people are paying the taxes and there's no broad mass people paying the taxes, then people tend to lax about when we talk about government accountability and making sure that you hold the government to the feet and let them account for why or how they're using your taxes. So for me, having a broad-based tax system, I've always supported, because it has this other enhanced benefit of citizens now knowing that their skin is in the game. When we talk about some government official non-performance or corruption, you know that you are financing that. So if you are paying it, you are feeling the pinch. Nobody will come and play propaganda to you. You will know it, because you have direct connection to what is going on, because it's impacting you from your pocket. So for me, a tax system that is broad-based, that allows every Ghanaian to contribute their quota and to feel it when they can see wastage, and be able to use that as an accountability mechanism to hold their leaders to account and to even vet or approve or disapprove them at an election, for me, is the best thing that can happen to any country. And that is why here you just made mention of how we pay taxes here and how it's connected to our development and how people can reflect that in the voting patterns. So for me, it is not a pleasant thing for anybody to pay taxes. But what even makes it harder for our part of the world is that the accountability mechanism for these people to see how these taxes are being put to use appears to be a missing link. So the burden is always on the few that are able to see this mechanism that, hey, government is taking a lot of tax from us. We as middle class people, we can feel the pinch, and therefore we'll reflect that in our voting pattern. We'll reflect that in our criticism of government. We'll reflect them and be outspoken about government. And that few people, in the big scheme of things, their vote probably is about 10%, right? How about the remaining 80% of the population who also votes like these same people, same one vote, but most of these taxes is not on them, it's on these few people that are continuing to bear these taxes. So in that sense, it will be very unfair, right? If you that about the question about fairness that you asked, to this, small group of people who continue to bear these taxes, and then when it comes to voting too, it's not as if their voting power is we give it a bigger weight than everybody else.
Do you think that these taxes are borne by the fewer people as versus the majority?
I can say, based on our tax system and the way our country is run, look at how many people are employed in the formal sector. We are talking about a country of 30 million people.
No, but the
let me
taxes that are in place now, when it comes to the Momo tax, the sanitation tax, and even go ahead.
no, you were talking about additional taxes.
Right,
You were
right.
not talking about the full gamut of taxes that we have from 92 up to date. You were just talking about the additional taxes that have
But
been
no,
imposed.
I was talking about the taxes that this current government had imposed since it starts of governance. In addition to this 3 new taxes that have been imposed, because people have been complaining that the country is being overly taxed already since the beginning of His Excellency Akufo-Addo's government. If you know, this has been the issue on the mouths of a lot of Ghanaians from day one, and now we have 3 additional compounding taxes. So it's not like we're not talking about taxes from from when whatever in Nkrumah time or whatever. We're talking about within the space of 6 to 7 years.
Okay, so we want to talk about taxes under taxes under this new government.
Exactly.
Okay,
Right.
that's fine. This new government abolished some taxes when they came into power, right?
Okay.
They scrapped some taxes, they considered new ones. And I think at the time one of them was, reducing taxes on, what do you call it, the airfare, those who take domestic flight. They took away some other taxes. But then also within the same government, we've seen increase in VAT, right? We've seen this additional tax increment, but they have not happened all at the same time. They have happened at different times, and different times because of the different economic situation that you have. Because taxes also play a key important role in incentivizing people to be productive in an economy. So you have to be mindful how you use this tax system to get that incentive from people to add to your productivity. So at different times, different requirements will require different set of taxes and different way of collecting those taxes. At this point in time, what you're asking ourselves whether it's fair or it's not fair is that if we don't get an IMF bailout, the risk that awaits us out there, it's much greater and could lead to much bigger problems. So at this point, these taxes are meant to cover and resolve some inefficiency issues, while at the same time ensuring that it gives IMF an assurance that we are prepared to fix some of these outstanding issues that we probably haven't looked at or we haven't had the will to do. But now that we are coming under an IMF program, they are requiring us to see through this other measures, so that when they are disbursing their funds to us and it's coming into our system, they can have comfort that it's coming into a system that has already, resolved some of these issues, and it's not going to, just be money that we give you without you also doing anything. So in that sense, for me, I would say it's important. It's a necessary evil, because if we don't get through them and we don't get the IMF bailout, what awaits us is a much bigger risk that could, lead to a collapse of the economy, and that will come with major consequences that nobody wants to even anticipate. Even the little one that we have here, our economy has no collapse yet. Look at how people are complaining. You can imagine if you had a collapsed economy, what will happen?
Some are also saying, and Evans, I know you were taking notes, and you will have your chance to come in. Some are also saying that the reason for these additional taxes and the reasons why our economy is struggling because of government's over expenditure. For instance, there are about 2,000 staffers at the Jubilee House. Now that is unprecedented. Coupled with 115 plus ministers for a small economy like Ghana, and not so big government like Ghana's. Is it fair to say that at least if the government can cut down on government expenditure alone, that could mitigate some of these economic struggles? Daniel.
Oh, of course. But you have to be mindful which expenditure you are cutting. Expenditure cutting must not just be a blanket thing that people just say and get away with it. You have to ask them, which expenditures are you really talking about? You can say, yes, reduce the number of government size. And then somebody will ask you the alternative question. If that government employee that you want us to cut his salary was your relative, will you advocate for that policy position? So
but you also see that at the expense of Ghanaians. Let's say you have a minister, right? Minister of agriculture, and that minister alone has 2 or 3 deputies as a presidential staffer, or at the Jubilee House. You have all this 2,000 almost 2,000 staffers. Now, do you think that it's necessary, right? That even though if you have to cut down, yes, somebody would have to lose their job, but wouldn't that be to the benefit of the economy in general? Because the whole country cannot bear the bill of a few whom might not be needed in running a government or an economy not so big like Ghana's.
Yes. Senna, so that's why I said when we talk about the issue of expenditure, you have to really look at it critically. You can't just be making blanket statements. So in this case, like in the case of the staffers that you talked about, I don't think that the president has appointed 2,000 staffers into Jubilee since it came. Maybe you are trying to differentiate some are civil servants that are already there, but they come and they add on top of it. But all the 2,000 people were never appointed by the president to be in the Jubilee House. Some are civil servants that will remain regardless of whether Akufo-Addo is there or not. They will still continue to do their job. But there are some other political appointees that each administration adds on top of that structure that already exists.
Okay.
If we are saying we think that number is too big, therefore we need to cut our civil servant, it will not only affect the political appointment, it will also affect this permanent staff that you're talking about. And so it has implications. And already you are a country that cries that there's unemployment. So you see, that's why I'm saying we must be very careful when we talk about this cutting thing, because you can go in cutting and then even the civil servant will lose job. And we'll come back here and complain that people are unemployed again. But there's a cutting that I agree with you that must happen. Let's say if you have a ministry and you have 3 ministers, that you can, and those ministers, 2 of them are MPs. What do you lose if I cut off that position as deputy minister? Because after all, we are all MPs already. You're employed already. So that kind of cutting I can do. Because if you're already employed and I'm paying you the same, salary as an MP that I'll pay you as a deputy minister, there's nothing that the economy really loses. All we lose is that we create a synoptic effect to let people know that, oh, this ministry is now being downside. But it's not as if these ministers are being paid double salary for doing with the same job. They are being paid the same salary. So if that's the kind of cutting Ghanaians want to see, and just to be happy about the optics of it, and not really the substance of whether we are really saving money, well, the president can go ahead and play those chess games. But I'm not interested in that kind of conversation. I'm interested in real cutting expenditure that has efficiency on our governance.
Our economy. No, thank you, Daniel. Evans, I know you've been waiting patiently.
Yes, sir. So on the taxes, Senator, that you mentioned, you forgot about the Bola tax. You forgot about the COVID-19 taxes, which they are still taking in today's dollars. Okay, they're still taking COVID-19 taxes. I mean, how can the government be so wicked? People are unemployed. Your unemployment rate is 34%. You don't have a plan to grow this economy. You are still spending at the same rate as you go into an IMF negotiation. And you think you'll get support? I disagree. It won't happen. About the participation. We are overtaxed. Ghanaians have been overtaxed. Dude, let me tell you, let's face it. Ghanaians have been overtaxed. And what's sad is that we don't even have a plan to create employment so you can tax them. That's the plan. So you are not innovative from a financial, economics perspective. As a government, you are not even innovative to reason and create employment so you can tax them more. I mean, is that not the case? We live in America, Senna. That's the plan. That's how you get the multiplier effect. You develop the people, then you can tax them more and widen the tax net for participation. That's why the United States is the biggest economy in the world. Unemployment rate is about 2.5%. So more people work, you tax them, and you can get all the nicer stuff. Is that one too hard to do? We've all been to economics. We've all been to school. We've done economics. These are basic things, my brother. And you know what is happening in Ghana now? You have had a group of the players. The consumer is smart, right? The market players are smart. They'll find a way to turn around your policies when it's too targeting and it's not innovative. Kojo Ponkrumah, no, not Kojo Ponkrumah, the Minister of Finance, Deputy Minister of Finance, my own mate, Dr. John Kuma, he told us that e-levy was going, and you forgot about e-levy, Senna.
Absolutely.
E-levy was going to give us 1 million jobs.
Yes.
You remember that?
Yes.
What happened? Just after 3 months, they had to recalibrate, right?
We were told that e-levy was going to solve all the problems.
All the problems, exactly. So, Senna, if you, from where I sit, okay, from a top, financial perspective level, you come into me with an IMO program where you say I can pay so and so based off how I've restructured my economy, and they know you can't plan. You don't have the capacity to plan, right? You said e-levy was going to be all in all, and now, yes, you said e-levy was going to be it, right? Sena, you said
Yes.
E-levy was going to be 8.
Yes.
In less than 3 months, you found out that you were lying because you didn't know what you were getting into. You didn't know the numbers. Now you're coming back with a debt, domestic debt restructuring that is going to be targeting old folks that have worked so hard. You know, they are the only thing we have.
Oh,
Less
yeah.
than 1 million, of our population. All this money sitting there, you want to tax it. And that is not the way to go if you look at where we are coming. So all these things we've been here because of as a result of a lack of planning. And if you don't plan, you fail. Period.
He also mentioned that it's, I mean, the 2000 staffers we're talking about, it's not necessarily the issue why, you know, where it's not necessarily considered as overly government's overspending, and that is not necessarily affecting our public purse.
I do not have a problem with the level of presidential staffers.
Okay.
I think that I need to see, the remuneration packages, and see the impact, how it's impacting our national coffers. If you look at the, appropriations.
Okay.
But you look at where.
Go ahead.
You look at where the presidency itself is overspending. If you look at the total budget when they showed it, the presidency, President Kufuor's office, the private jet, rentals, that was a big deal. I don't think, the number of staffers, if you look at the comparison, the spending was at the presidency itself, not the staffers.
The
personal budget of the president.
Personal budget of
Huge.
the president.
Yes.
Now that you mentioned the personal budget of the president, is the president still renting that the private jet?
So I think just a month ago we saw where Falcon is back. So hallelujah, we thank God. I think that is the only thing they've done since they came to office, repairing that private jet, so the nation can save money in terms of the expenditure of the president, because it was too much. At what point were you gonna finish with those rentals? $35,000 per hour rentals. That's huge.
Was it $35,000 per hour?
Yes, or more.
I thought it was $17,000 an hour.
Have you seen the numbers? You should ask for the numbers.
$35,000 an hour.
Yes.
Okay, so Daniel, is the president still using the private jet? That is costing the taxpayer $35,000 an hour.
No, I think they stopped.
I think they had to refit the presidential jet itself. Okay. They had to take it to France and do some, maintenance work, and it's back.
Okay, but for over 5 years, or 4 years at least, that is what the taxpayers had to bear.
I don't think it's over 4 years. I think it was under 2 years.
Under 2 years?
Yeah, under 2 years.
Okay.
Now that particular issue was concerning to me because I know you have to protect the security of the president, but look at your country, look at your specific context situation, right? If you even $17,000 or whatever an hour, like if I don't know the numbers, but if that's correct, that number can pay 5 people, 10 or even 15 people's annual salary in Ghana.
Absolutely.
So in context, that means a lot. You get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
If you bring that money to the US, $17,000 an hour, and who cares about that? You see what I'm trying to say?
I know. I get it. I know. So we both agree. We both agree that was astronomical. That was crazy to put it mildly. And so if the government has done something about it, it's good enough. I want us to at this point look at the cathedral. What is the current state of the National Cathedral? We were told, the people of Ghana were told that the cathedral was not a national project. It was the president's own personal project. And as a result, the people of Ghana were told that the nation's purse was not going to be touched in the pursuit of building the National Cathedral. But if it looks like the nation's purse was touched somehow in that regard. We also know that in order to make room for the cathedral's foundation to be built, a lot of already existing building, which was purchased by the taxpayers' money, had to be taken down. And these were buildings that were supposed to be for judges, and these were taking care of the taxpayers' money. Is the cathedral project still ongoing, or has the government put a halt to it? Daniel.
Yeah, Senator, I'm an advocate for the cathedral, but not. I mean, even though I have some, I mean, difficulties with some aspect about how they've managed the process. Yes, and my concern is that when you give your word to the Ghanaian people and you tell them something, you have to be very clear about what it is that you are telling them, so that, I mean, it's not left for people to have different interpretation of the same thing that you said, that you thought meant something, but then in the minds of many people, they misread that to mean it meant something to them.
Right.
And I think that's been one of the difficulty with this cathedral. The communication around some of the things that we said we were going to do, or they promised to do, at some point got, I mean, confused with some other things that came around it. And instances, Senna, it must be noted that when the proposal of the cathedral came up, it was put in the budget. I always tell Ghanaians that government cannot spend money if they don't have approval from the people's representative, right? And in that budget, they told Parliament that they were going to provide seed capital. And this was something I thought our parliamentarians, if you were that much concerned about expenditures then, and the government had come to you as the, I mean, people who have oversight of our government public affairs to approve monies for it, and it tells you that I'm going to provide seed money, and you left that blank, and now you gave government more like an open check. What is seed money? What is the upper limit? What is the lower limit? How much is it? We have no idea about this. And the government goes and says, well, I told you I was going to provide seed money. And at this point, if my seed money is $100 million, how are you going to question me about that? Because you didn't even, when you were approving my expenses or my expenditure on this issue, you didn't let me explain to you what my upper limit was going to be in terms of how much I was going to spend on this. And so at any point in time, the government came back and said, I said I was going to provide seed money, and my seed money was provided the land and providing this additional funding for architectural drawings and this additional money. So in that case, I mean, are you going to say the government spent without authorization? So that is why Parliament is very important. That is why scrutiny is very important. And that is the work of Parliament. And I've always been disappointed with Parliament when it comes to some of these things. But Senator, that is my challenge with this National Cathedral. But I like the idea that if, as it originally they told us is intended to be, that private people are going to sponsor the building of this country. I don't have a problem with private people sponsoring or building monuments. That for me is something noble. No reasonable person will ever be against. And I think even the people that are speaking against the cathedral now are not against that aspect. What they are against is the fact that now they continue to see much more government funding that now seeks to suggest that it is not just seed money. Government is taking the whole cost of building the project.
Yeah. And it also doesn't make sense, which I think we all would agree that I mean, I think there are many locations that could have been spotted for that cathedral instead of tearing down already existing buildings for judges. You know, I don't think that would never make sense. But I think we you know, it has already been done. So Evans, I want us to look at the state of the, what do you call it, the free HSS.
Senator, before you go there, I wanted to respond to what Evan said about he being very skeptical if the IMF was going to approve the 3 billion whatever. I think, Senator, that is red herring, right? To have that confidence to even say the IMF will not approve or we're not going to get it. It's for me, I'm surprised.
I mean, we work in corporate America, Danny. We see, you know, the optics. Yeah, we know when.
But I mean, for your information, Senator, what I can tell you is that Ghana, you see, when it comes to dealing with our Western partners, Ghana is fortunate in some sense. When I say fortunate in some sense, Ghana is not like any of your typical African countries that goes to the IMF. And there's a reason. The reason is that the geopolitics of this world requires that they are very important countries situated within certain geographical parts of this world that provide stability and helps provide security in the regions in which they find themselves. And one of such important geopolitical powers, like if you go to the East, I mean, you have the players there, right? If you go to China, Taiwan provides some comfort to the US, right? And if you come to the West African region, Ghana provides that kind of, you know, bulwark, you know, system for preserving the security within the Saharan region. And therefore, the attractiveness to which these Western partners look at Ghana is different from how they look at Burkina Faso.
So you are saying, based off the geopolitical location, strategic location of Ghana, we stand a chance of getting that.
No, don't be that specific. It goes beyond the location. It's not a location thing. It's more like an image, a brand that Ghana has about its ability to ensures peace and stability within the sub-Saharan region.
I want to add something to that.
And because of that, if Ghana fails, it has major security implications for sub-Saharan Africa. So when these countries are dealing with Ghana, they are looking beyond just your immediate. They are looking at all this big picture. You know what I'm trying to say? So sometimes I'm surprised you sit here without boat and say that these people are not going to marry Ghana.
so Daniel, is it so Ghana may get a loan not based on our
no, that's an added advantage.
Got you.
Another advantage, but they still have to meet the criteria to qualify.
Got you. Go ahead.
That advantage, Senna.
Yes.
That advantage that my brother is talking about. You know how long it took all of us to build that credibility.
So you
it was not a one-man's job.
Yes,
it was not a one-man's job. Okay,
of course,
it's through the years of skill, people training, medical doctors, engineers that have worked, at the highest level. All this expertise has given us some value. Okay, but it used to be the case where it's Ghana, but it's not anymore. There's no.
And would you also say that we can attribute that to the political stability of the country as well?
Of course, we are a strategic partner. We are an English-speaking country sandwiched by francophone countries. You know that. So that's strategic. And the Wagner Group, up north, when they gained grounds, and the French government had to call the ambassador. All that stuff that's happening. So it's all about the politics. Ghana,
for the benefit of our audience who may not understand, some of these things we were talking about. It's good to break it down to its various form of understanding. That way people can get.
From a security perspective, from a transnational security perspective, the Russians, were occupying Burkina Faso. There's still a military, takeover right now as we speak. And then with President Akufo-Addo, of course, he's privy to the intelligence. He's the president. So, he came to Washington, D.C. and said, hey, Russia is, on my territory. Remember that? That was wild. Yeah. The following morning, the Burkina Faso president called the ambassador from Accra. Remember that? So there's the intention and, God forbid that something happens from the Northern Territory. We don't have money to even feed. How can we, protect ourselves? So we are in a tight corner where America will not look on for Ghana to suffer. There's so much value. But the lessons learned is that when you get a president, he shouldn't go ahead spending our money because there'll be the rainy days. That's where I'm coming from. When you come and see money, don't spend your nose. Don't spend through your nose. That's my point.
Your point on the National Cathedral.
My point is, Senna, I won't even let you land. Look at New York City today, okay? Look at New York City today. And look at Pennsylvania Avenue in Washington, D.C. today. Okay. It's like you are president of this nation. You want to build a cathedral. You couldn't find any place, okay, to even go and build and get the value through the multiplier effect. Saying Sawam, you chose the creme de la creme of Accra. And today it's a Galamsey pit. I don't know if I was in Accra a month ago. That side it's a Galamsey pit. There's no way going on. Yeah. So you went into such a huge infrastructure paid by the taxpayers' money without a plan of how you were gonna, finish it. So I don't even want to talk about it again. Ghanaians have shown the president where they don't like it. It's not popular. If he can find his own money and do it, I don't have a problem. Yeah.
One of the big policies, it's 7 minutes past 5 p.m. and you're still watching the Progressive Mind Show. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Once you come on Facebook, like the page, share it. Do the same on YouTube as well. Subscribe to our page. Share it with friends. This is the only diaspora platform where we build our communities through these types of conversations. And so we encourage you to support us by sharing our feed, also subscribing to us on our Facebook and social media platforms. We have 501c3, and so your donations are encouraged. Every Tuesday, 6 p.m. Central, we are here, and then Sundays at 4 p.m. we come here to talk about issues that are pertaining to the direct diaspora and the continent of Africa, specifically Ghana. On the panel this evening is Evan Safo Abed Bwedu, representing NBC in the United States. Daniel is also representing NPP in the United States. Our perspective from the diaspora regarding Ghana and issues going on there is what we are looking at today. You can call in at 815-277-5047, 815-277-5047. We apologize for the lag in the transmission. We've been working on this. It's been an issue for some time. We're still working in the back end to fix it. We promise that by the next episode, this should be taken care of. So thank you for bearing with us and for bringing in your comments. I know Efa Ameya and Rukia Abu Bakari have also shared their feed. Let's listen. Let's take their feed. Let's take their comments. When we come back, we'd like to look at the main flagship policy of this current government has been the free education, and free education currently is not anything to write home about. And this is a concern from Ghana. I mean, if you call people, it doesn't seem to be doing well. Why? We'll get to that. Firstly, let's see if we can read a first last comment. And because of the lag, the message is delaying. Okay, we have it on here. NDC has always campaigned against the size of government, but their hypocrisy was exposed by their continuous approvals of appointees needing parliamentary approvals. They know that current government is doing great. They know that the current government is doing great, but they won't say so, obviously, for political expediency. Another comments from Efa. Let's do this. Oh, 1 second. It's taking time for our information to load up on the screen. So, okay, while we wait on that, Daniel. Okay, let's see if we can do this. Okay. Daniel, your take on the free edge, free HS.
Senna,
Yes.
I mean, free senior high school is just, I think, one of the big.
Yes, free SHS. That's what I'm missing. The S. Yes.
Yeah, it's just one of the big things, the big strategic move that we have to do as a country to be competitive. And for me, it's critical. Any government that is really serious about 21st century and how things work out in the 21st century must look at secondary education and making sure that at least most of its population has that kind of level of education seriously, because it serves as the omen for greater things to come. And therefore, it's just one of the puzzles that we need to solve within our economy, to make sure that we are educating as many people as possible, so that once we take them, they can easily be trained for something else. It doesn't mean that it provides them the career path or option, but it gives them a certain basic level of human capital that we can build off of, and then be able to deploy them in different areas, pick that from that level and train them or enhance their skills in some other areas by providing additional value to their life. And so for me, free senior high school is one of my biggest thing I'll always defend, regardless of whoever is talking about anything, because of where I'm coming from and knowing the importance of the people that today I have left behind, because the only factor was that my father was able to sponsor my education and their father couldn't do it. Not because I was intelligent than them, not because, there was something extra that I did that they didn't do, but I've seen that factor reflect in my lifetime. Me will not, as a person, knowing this and having experimented what that means for the cost of funding someone's education, what that can make in the lives of somebody, will never sit here and say I'm against free senior high school. And I think not many people are against it as well. Just that people have different approaches to how they think it must be implemented. That for me is a good argument. If you agree in principle that something is good, but people have different ideas about what they think is the optimal way to implement it, that is a policy debate that is good to have in every society. And I won't begrudge if another party has a different policy prescription around implementation.
Has it succeeded? Has the policy succeeded?
Well, that is for the Ghanaian people. That I would say, I mean,
from your perspective as a diasporan looking on from here,
I would say it as at least I would say we've achieved relative success with it. It doesn't mean we don't have to relative success. It doesn't mean we don't have challenges with it. But from a relative standpoint, without it, you can imagine the number of people that would have been out there on the street, that would have been denied access to just that kind of education. So on that score, but you see, the big problem that Ghana needs to solve is digitizing the economy with this identification thing. That's a security issue, right? So if you're able to get these big pillars going, I can tell you we'll be much competitive than our neighboring countries or our countries on the same level with that. If we get these things together and we put all the the pieces together, and then we have a consolidated system, Ghana will be a very interesting country to as an experiment to watch. And I'm not surprising Hillary was excited about the kind of technology deployment he saw happening in a developing country like Ghana, whereas the US is even having to learn from some of those adoptions. So I think there's much more going for us. We have a stock of capital or a stock of asset that we can protect and manage going into the future. If we can manage our debt situation and bring all that back together, there's much more that Ghana has that we haven't still seen. And I'm very hopeful about the future once we get through these difficulties and with this IMF, a situation on our neck.
Okay, I agree that we have a hopeful future. It's interesting when you hear the people from MPP side saying, we are hopeful when we go to once we get through IMF, like the hope they have in IMF now. When you listen to them a few years ago about we will never go to IMF, we are
the reality of politics, right?
Oh goodness!
The IMF should be laughing. The IMF should be laughing at our people when they get there.
I kid you not. I kid you not. Evans, you want to respond to any of this?
It's on mute. Evans, you're on mute, sir.
Yes, Evans on mute. You're right. That was me. Go ahead, Evans. We can hear you now.
So, Senna, free SHS.
Yes,
it was a fantastic, program. Matter of fact, President John Mahama, aided by former Education Minister Prophet Nana Jane, they were planning, to have free HSS. That would be, better for all our children at an optimal, perspective. You understand? Because this government was so lucky with the new oil fields that Danny talked about. They had so much, money inflows, right? And the program was supposed to be funded by our consolidated, from the oil, cash that was coming in. If you know that, right? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
And what are we seeing now? It's costing parents more now in today's dollars than it used to be when even our parents paid our school fees. So that's a problem. That's a red flag. Because you know why? The teachers don't have the books. They are doing extra classes. Parents are having to pay more than hitherto, what was the case. But again, it comes to the planning problem that I was telling you about from an implementation, project management perspective. If you fail to plan, the implementation will be bad. So now, yes, they were spending all the money, even money meant for, free SHS was not going. And you've seen here recently where President Mahama, was in Suhum where he said, the food that our children are eating in free SHS is, not fit for, even dogs and cats.
Yeah.
And Ghanaians, those that know that are, have parents, they know, they understand. Beyond the politics, of course, he didn't mean, our children
literally
are being fed. Literally. But from it used to be where our children were being fed well when parents were paying their own fees, but not anymore.
Because we all went to the boarding house.
Exactly. That's the whole idea. So that's the whole point. And my brother Danny was talking about where
Daniel, I'm sure you ate better. Daniel, you fed better when you were in the boarding house than what we are seeing today, to be honest.
Absolutely. But Senna, did you see where recently some children were I think Ghana's or somewhere?
Oh yeah. The boarding, the one that they had converted the toilet rooms to dormitories. That's.
But you know the sad part. So Senna, you know the sad part. John Mahama gave us the infrastructure. Okay, this government, if for nothing at all, they had the infrastructure. Okay, to expand and put this case in school, and they did not. They were still keeping this case in the same old infrastructure without thinking about expansion. And the facilities are sitting there with Ghanaian taxpayer money. All this infrastructure sitting down unutilized.
Daniel, there is facts showing that there are buildings or infrastructure that is sitting down that this current government is not using, that were put up by the previous government led by John Mahama, when they talk about the settlement housing project and other facilities that, like he's saying, could be put to use to curb this accommodation issues that would ultimately enhance the economy. Why? What's going? Why is this government? Why is the president not at least opening up these institutions or these facilities for people to use, since they are sitting there and it's taxpayers' money?
Sana, that is one of the problems I've had with this the Fourth Republic. The Fourth Republic, and it's one of the things that I think if we don't resolve, these things that you're seeing will not end with even the MPP government. The next government, you will see these symptoms play out and play out and play out, all to the point that if after 30 years we haven't seen that there are some things that have not worked right for us, to be honest with ourselves and to sit back and say, hey, why do we leave a lot of uncompleted projects sitting out there that were started by one government or the other? It's gone across different governments. I mean, after Rollins, and we continue to see these things happen. It's because, Sana, when we campaign, when we go to election and we campaign, right? We campaign on our manifestos, right?
Yeah.
And then when we come into power, we try to implement what we have in our manifesto because we believe that was what the Ghanaian people voted for.
Absolutely.
So the problem is the lack of national development. If it was a national development and this particular project was part of it, that we know that each government, depending on what percentage of that project you complete, you can take credit for it. You think that it will incentivize politicians to, add that as part of their manifesto to say that if I come, the national housing project that we've all been complaining that there's shortages of housing, I'm going to do 40% of it within this period. And then the other government will also say, oh, if they only come and the 40% is there, they will only add on and say, we'll also come and do or finish it. Then that way we can progressively all be aligned with what matters to us as a country, what infrastructure project we think is crucial or is critical, and how we want to go about it. And we can track the expenditure that way. But here is the case, you have a very huge project like this sitting out there. And the government comes and it says that there are already, issues about overpricing and having paid monies that, and we have not delivered the number of housing that we have. And 6 years down the line, I don't know if the matter is in court. We haven't heard anything about it. You think even the MPP people whom you told the story to when you initially took over that project and you complain about all these difficulties with it, will today have confidence when you come back to tell them otherwise?
No, absolutely
so
not.
This is how we as a country, we politically, dampen the spirit of the trust that the people should have in the political parties.
Okay.
So I think that no matter how you look at it, this thing is costing Ghana a lot, and it's part of the debt that you are restructuring with the IMF.
Right.
So if you do all these things and you go to the IMF, you want them to give you their money with kid gloves?
Okay.
They will have to give you the condition because you appear not to learn.
They do.
You get what I'm trying to say?
They do. Thanks for. I didn't mean to interrupt, but because we have we don't have too much time, and I want to get some comments out. I want to get some of Efa's and Rukia's comment out, because I did like us to touch on the next topic, which is the next presidential election that is coming up next year. We know Mahama is running again. For the NPP, we are still not sure. And so we'll look at that briefly before we end today's conversation. And pardon me, audience, for the lagging again. We're having difficulties in getting the comments up in time so we can read them. The settlement project is fully paid for, and the NDC squandered the money for which they are in court to answer. Since he mentioned the NDC, Evans, quickly, you want to respond to this?
I personally know the settlement project. The project is about 75% done, bro. It was just another stop work. We are doing due diligence, financial engineering to see if NDC squander money. It's just political, gimmicks. That's all it is. Yeah.
Okay. So thanks for your response. And there's another comment here. Let's get to let's get to the presidential election. Not in detail, but we'll talk about the two. The candidate for NDC is the obvious that everybody knew was coming. John Mahama, the ex-president. He's running again. He wants to run again. He has initiated his intent to run again. I was having a conversation with the brother the other day, and he had his own argument. He's no, not Mahama. Anybody else from the NDC, but not Mahama. Evans, why should Mahama be the person that Ghanaians should expect to help bring the economy of Ghana back and actually move it to the promised land that we are all looking for or hoping for?
Obviously, I mean, he's the obvious choice. I mean, Senna, with all due respect, he's done it before. He's been president before. He was there when we had the challenges. When Doomsaw was at its peak, he engaged. He consulted. Brought in the Ameri. At the ECAP power plants. We did it. And you know what Napo did? The current energy minister. He took the Ameri plan from Accra to Kumasi without even telling the people of Ghana. See, this government is so arrogant. They don't even communicate to us. They don't talk to us. Like, the communication is bad. So now President Mahama is leading from behind. He's the one talking to Ghanaians now. If you look at the space, President Mahama is the one that is speaking to Ghanaians. Our president doesn't talk to us because he doesn't
you said he's done it before. What did he do? Are there some items that some developmental projects or infrastructure that you can mention?
Look at Terminal 3. Okay,
which is the international airport.
Terminal 3. That airport terminal is so beautiful. It's a world-class terminal. If for nothing at all, okay, Mahama gave us that terminal. And you know the irony about this whole thing? The MPP people believe in flying. They go to London. They like to come to America a lot, more than those of us that live here. That airport is so much standard with class that even MPP people say, wow, Mahama did something. So, like the optics, the evidence is there. He has done it before. Apart from fixing this new jet, the old jet that was lying there that we're talking about, Danny, apart from fixing that jet that was sitting idly, the MPP government has done nothing apart from consumption. So the Ghanaian people have seen it, that these people cannot build. MPP cannot build. JM is the builder. He's the nation's builder.
So yes. JM builds the international airport.
Yes, the terminal. Yeah.
That's okay. So you're saying that there are so many sectors of the economy. Of the economy of Ghana. And so would you say that the airport building of JM alone should give him that should give Ghanaians the hope that he will be able to turn the economy around? What happened? Would that be the main thing to credit to? Yeah.
Sena, I'm a Ghanaian. That's what I see. Because you know why? Did you see the year of return when President Kufuor was in DC, Virginia, trying to send African Americans and diaspora people home? Yeah. To what infrastructure were they coming to if we didn't have that terminal?
Right.
Can you imagine? Would it have been the old terminal, the whole domestic terminal? Then if you don't have the infrastructure, my brother, you can't develop. Period. It's all about infrastructure. And did you see the inflows of money that they're touting that the year of return is the most, and that they haven't accounted to the people of Ghana how much?
But the terminal, the beauty of the terminal does not determine the revenue and the influx of people that are coming to the country.
From the ICAO, the International Civil Aviation Organization, the metrics and the standards that they do for world-class airports. Okay, that refurbishment that Bahama did brought it to a certain standard where all kinds of aircrafts and
flights can
aviation
come through.
services can exactly. So
Okay.
that was what was driving that kind of investment. And
Okay.
I'm telling you, today in today's dollars, it's our most value asset, and GM built it. That's for me. I don't know what you see. You can share with us.
Is that the only thing GM has built?
Oh, he gave us the UGCMC. You know the UGMC hospital.
For a lot of people who are outside the country, Africa and Ghana, they don't know what UGMC is.
So that's the University of Ghana Medical Center.
Okay.
Senna, I say this with a lot of passion. Okay, I was the telecom engineer for the University of Ghana at the time. It was under the Chinese Phase 2 project during President Mills' time in Mahama. So we went to Beijing with a team at UGMC hospital with my team. We gave it a master slave, huge generators. It was a solid investment. So that's my baby. That project is my baby. I went to school at the University of Ghana. I went back there as a telecom and power engineer, and we did it all because of JM and President Mills' vision. So he's done a lot. I'm saying he gave us the infrastructure. He gave us the infrastructure. So he can do it again.
Okay. Before Daniel comes in, Ifa Mayal says, let me read this if it's not showing up on the screen. I hope I can get this up here. Laughable JM, which is John Mahama, is remembered for Dumso Airbus economic downturn without pandemic, collapse of business, etc. What's your take on that?
Granted, I mean, governments, president come into government to inherit problems, right? Governance is a continuum. President Kufuor did his best. Before he left government, we had, issues with Akosombo Dam, the water levels, from an engineering perspective. Even the lifespan of that dam, in engineering sense, it cannot be used. If it was in America, that Akosombo Dam would have been shut down a long time ago. Okay. But it remains our most valuable asset. So this is an engineering, investment and, life cycle, policy issue where that, as at 2010 in Ghana, that dam had outlived its engineering sense, period, from a power, technology perspective. So they did their best, engineers tweaking here and there. But JM inherited it and went to Parliament and said, hey, we have a challenge. He went to, Parliament of Ghana. Do you remember? He said, look, we have a challenge. We have a power crisis. Yeah. And what did he do? He solved it. Before he left office, he has solved the Dumso problem. So he took it.
And to be fair, to be fair to you and the NDC and JM, before Mahama left, there was no Dumso.
Of course.
To be honest,
the Vice President Baumia, acknowledged that. It's on record. Yeah. You can check. Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, so economic downturn without pandemic, he thinks that President Mahama caused the economic downturn of Ghana. True or false?
My brother is doing politics. He's doing politics.
No. What is your response to that?
That is laughable.
Okay, to you that is laughable.
You were off. You are lagging again.
Yes, I'm lagging. Right, but am I clear now? Can you hear me now?
You are clear now. Come again.
Okay. No, I'm saying your direct response to the fact that John Mahama, he's saying John Mahama run the economy down. What do you say to that?
He left you a dollar rate of 4.25, and in today's dollars it's 12.0 under Akufo-Addo. It's never. It's disingenuous.
So that explains it. Okay.
Yes, exactly.
And then he says, there's another point that I'm trying to load up, which is taking some time. Okay. Since that is upcoming, Daniel, your response to John Mahama running for the NDC.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so now I'm not an NDC person, right? But if I'm in academia and I was looking at the NDC and I was doing an objective analysis for the NDC, their best bet is John Mahama, right? Okay. It's like it's a no-brainer. If you want to be truthful and be a very unbiased analyst, and you want to analyze the NDC historically within their own context and the relative position of the NDC and where they stand in the tens of tens, John Mahama is their best foot forward. Yeah. But That is for the NDC. But the question is John Mahama the best for Ghana? That's another whole different question that we will answer.
Okay.
You get my point?
No, I get your point.
Yeah. So
But
for the NDC, I don't begrudge them at all. They can.
There are some NPPs who are saying though that John Mahama is not the best. Perhaps they're not speaking on behalf of the NDC, but I think they're actually pandering to the point you just made, right? Which is for the country.
Exactly.
You're saying you are asking, would John Mahama be the right president? If not, and I'm sure that's what you're trying to say. If he's not, who?
Exactly my point, and that is why I love competitive politics. That is why I love democracy, because in the absence of any machination, any rigging, on the basis of the assumption that there's a free, fair election, you get to know the true feeling and reflection of that feeling in the vote of the people. And you get to know how the country is thinking, what the temperature of the country looks like, what the mood of So election for me is a big deal because it's one of the biggest exercises where it is not based on survey. It is based on people's real expression of power and preferences. That is why I don't like rigged election, because it distorts this, aspect of trying to analyze the mood of the country and where people really stand. And that is one thing I hate about rigged elections. If there's any rigged election, I hate it because of these things. Because I see election as the real votes, the real intentions of people, regardless of however you want to look at it. It's the real fact. But my point is that John Mahama, you see, John Mahama is an enigma. When I say it's an enigma, he's an enigma in the context of Ghanaian politics. It's a bit of a conundrum because of the relative positioning that John Mahama occupies in our political space now, right? The only former president contesting, right? This is the first time in our history in this contest. And about probably the only, remaining vice president of the NDC, or former president of the NDC. You get what I'm trying to say?
Yes.
So John Mahama comes with some uniqueness when it comes to our political space. But the difficulty with John Mahama is that he faces an MPP that has grown, an MPP that has moved on, an MPP that is different from the MPP even under Atamils, that is different from the MPP even under Rollins. And I'm glad to say that historically, if you look at the MPP has grown election over election. And it appears the NDC have lost grounds to where traditionally the MPP never dared even go gain grounds. He just spoke about John Mahama. Today, in today's political space, somebody will say John Mahama is probably more capitalist than the MPP themselves. in his policy prescription and in the way he ran Ghana. Because reality comes and reality will face you as a president of a country. And if those reality face you, have to be pragmatic. It's not about ideology anymore. It is about reality and pragmatism and solving a problem. And John Mahama was faced with that reality, and he had to deploy capitalist, prescribed ways to get around that. And today, so that's why when my brother, Mr. Evans, spoke, I laughed. Having the airport is great, Sana, but politically, how many votes does that bring to the NDC folks? The elite people, yes, the elite people. And even these elite people that you probably appeal with them with this airport project, most of them are MPP elite folks for the most part. So in terms of the net effect of getting a vote itself, you probably will not be gaining that much. But that development is good for our country.
Yeah.
So you must not just look at having votes to just do projects. You get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
So on that score, he having started that project, the MPP, of course, came to finish or continue that project when the NDC was it wasn't fully completed. So I think I agree that there's some sense in which you can say, that John Mahama did some things that are good. But today, the things that the MPP implement in terms of policy, it does not just sit in Accra. It is across the length and breadth of this country. It affects the nooks and crannies of villages and people beyond. If somebody is in my village, Enumapepem, in the eastern region, how does he care about an airport that is built in Accra or a UGMC that is built in Lagos? How often would that person go to that facility?
Yeah.
But in the person that sits in Enumapepem gets direct benefit of free education, direct benefit of health care delivery that enhances, that allows drones to deliver medicines to him. Direct benefit of roads that are built in his community, direct benefit of water, even direct benefit of toilet facilities that when you sit in Accra, you might probably even not count it as very useful. Such people, that for me is the differentiator, right? So that is why I'm very confident that the MPP's policy are far-reaching.
Who is a better option for Ghana's economy or to run the country to John Mahama for you?
You see, the MPP will have a difficult time coming into 2024 election, right? Because of the economy, obviously, right? Because the same leverage that we had in 2020 that made us superior to be able to win against the John Mahama. Coming into 2024, we are going to be knocked off a little bit off our economic, prowess.
Okay.
But that doesn't guarantee that even with our weakness in what we are seeing in the economy, that John Mahama will be seen as a better alternative. The reason is that John Mahama never had to face this, shocks that we are talking about.
Do you have any name? Do you have any name that you can recommend as a better option to John Mahama?
I like within the MPP.
Yes.
Oh, even Kennedy Japan will beat John Mahama to it.
Okay, no, because I want Evans, because of time, I want Evans to respond, right?
I of course, I believe I've always been on the side of Bawumia, even though I don't dispute Alan's capacity to still lead us. I don't mind if Alan is our flag bearer. I don't really mind, but because he's a good guy, I can defend him anytime, any day. But my preference would be for Bawumia for other strategic advantages that Bawumia brings to the ticket. Okay. That maybe Alan will not bring. You get what I'm trying to say? So regardless of yes, Bawumia is my preference. Regardless of whether Bawumia or Alan, if any of these get the Northern lead our party and win the election, they will still all be in government. So for me, as a matter of preference and as a matter of strategic reason, I'll prefer Bawumia. But Bawumia and Mahama, the two Northern Titans, that for me, you know what the differentiator will be? It will be the South determining who wins the election. Because for the two North, their votes in terms of the bigger vote will probably not even be up to 3 million. You get what I'm trying to say?
So you're saying So you're saying Mahama, Dr. Vice President Dr. Bawumia will be the better option for you, and a better option for Ghana's economy, right? Compared to John Mahama.
Yes.
Okay. Great. Based on the reasons you gave, and I really appreciate that. Evans.
Senna.
Yes.
I saw a gap where my brother was trying to talk about. I said the airport, the Kotoka Terminal 3 airport is not the only airport JM built for Ghanaians. He built the Kumasi airport, the new terminal at Tamale. The last time I was in Tamale was last year. Beautiful infrastructure. Okay. When you come to
there was one in Ho now. It's never been in the region.
Yeah, exactly. So, and you talk about the hospitals, not the UGCMC alone. He did the New Ridge Hospital. He did the look at the Afari Hospital in Kumasi. I went to Kokora School.
I'm not cutting you. It still doesn't defeat my argument. Those are
no, but you're talking about infrastructure that is visible.
I'm talking about the impact in terms of spreading the benefit of a project across the board. Those projects are situated within those regions, right?
Impact for a third world country like Ghana, your health is important. Your water projects.
No, you don't get what I'm not saying. Health is not important.
How about Daniel? How about the KJT market, which is in the heart of Kumasi?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying those projects are not important. I'm only telling you that those projects, as much as they're important, look at the immediate benefit to the people that get access to it.
But the NDC,
as opposed to the policy that the MPP do, that goes beyond.
MPP has give me one policy that MPP has done. MPP does not have a policy. What policy do we have?
Okay.
Policy, zero.
2024 is coming. We'll have to get them put to face. We'll tell them.
Daniel, you were saying that some of this infrastructure that NDC built, John Mahama built, right, are important.
Yes.
And by yet you're talking about policies which have not been implemented yet, right?
No, let me explain.
So some of this, the hospitals, the schools, the KJT market, for instance, people are using it today. So these are immediate impact projects, at least for me.
Yes.
Right.
Let me explain my point. Otherwise, what I'm saying is that these projects are important, right? They are impacting some people within that vicinity, right?
Okay.
But what I'm saying is that in as much as they are impacting people within that vicinity, if you look at the policies of the MPP, like free senior high school, right? It is not limiting. Because if I'm not in Kumasi, even in Kumasi, how many people go to KJTR?
Well, it is not limited, which means everybody can benefit off of it
across the country. So it far reaches many more people.
But what is the reality of that policy? Is it really benefiting of everybody?
That is what I said. That is why I said that. I mean, if for anything at all, we had 2020 election, and the numbers that Akufo-Addo got show me that most people approve of what he did. It doesn't mean they approve of everything that he is doing. So that for me alone was a measurement of to say that the thing that Akufo did in his first year, the Ghanaians really appreciated. I'll say yes.
The things. Can you mention the things that he did in his
Of
first year?
course, some of the things the three CDIs we are talking about. Some of the thing was restoring the health system, the national health insurance. Some of the thing was some of the road improvement he was doing. Some of the things were what do you call it? The ambulances that he brought to show up our health system, right? He did some things across the board that people could identify and relate to. You get what I'm trying to say? And the voting pattern reflected that. At least.
Evans, your response.
My response is my brother Daniel is doing politics. When it comes to the infrastructure,
why is he doing politics and you are not doing politics?
Because what he's saying is not tangible. He's just mentioning, kind of like typical MPP slogan. They call it what? Slogan or whatever. Yeah, just free. They believe in that. MPPs, they believe in that. They are big on that. One dress, where
one village, one down.
$1, one city. Did you see where Senna? I have something to share with you. Did you see where Brian Champon a week ago was talking at the podium with the vice president? Okay.
Yes.
In Kwewu.
Yeah.
I forgot to mention. It reminded me about the water project that John Mama did for Kwewu. If from Abetifi all the way to Mpraeso, that side, huge water infrastructure, system, pumping like millions of gallons to the township. Okay, and you saw where the vice president standing on podium with the new agric minister who hasn't done anything yet. From that grilling encounter in Parliament, he came out on his first podium to talk to the people who can even take advantage of cash cropping and snail farming or mushroom farming without nothing to tell them, with all the hunger. You saw what he did on that podium. And the vice president was standing there saying that, well, all that we built, the democracy and the value that we built, he's trying to show that he's the big man now without doing the job of a agric minister. And you saw what Ghanaians, have done since then. I think he has run away, Brian Champon. I think he's run away. So they don't have the men. I'm coming home to you. They don't have the men, So you see where the president has stopped talking, and Kenneth Japan and Alan Bawumia, they've all stopped talking. So Brian thought that somebody has to say something, and that's how he embarrassed himself because they don't have the men. There's nobody that can beat John Mahama any day.
To be honest, we have not heard Dr. Bawumia speak on the economy lately.
He has run away. He's now the IT expert. He's trying to be one of us.
Now the IT expert. Okay.
Yeah, he's trying to be one of us.
This guy, what's his name? I want you to answer a first question. He says the vice president has thrown a challenge to JM to mention one social intervention policy for the people of Ghana. He has none.
Why do you say that?
Well, if I is saying that the vice president, which is Dr. Bawumia, has thrown a challenge to JM, the ex-president who is running on the ticket of NDC for next year, to mention one social intervention policy for the people of Ghana, which JM did.
But you saw the Saklami affordable housing policy. We saw the Saklami that I was telling you about. It was 75% complete. Look at the catchment area, Medina, the Zongos. How many people can even occupy that site, just even if it's free of charge? And these are government payroll people where you can tax, so they can bring something back to the national coffers. So, I mean, housing project, nice. So how can the vice president say about JM didn't do any social policy intervention? That's disingenuous. That's a lie. Flat out lie.
Okay. So this I think we have Daniel back. So in spite of our challenges with the internet, I think we have had a very great conversation so far. God willing, the next time it will be super perfect. Efa says, tell them Dan, NPP puts in place policies that affects every Ghanaian. NDC does something in a small place and goes around talking as if it affects the whole country. NPP policies are nationalistic in nature. So again, if the question that I asked, what is a good of a policy if it's the most well-written, most detailed, and it's not, one, implemented, and two, now well-funded, and three, unsustainable? You know, as we are speaking of the free SHS at this moment, right? So so I think that's a question if I would like you to respond to. If you want to call 815-277-5047, please feel free to do so. I know you have a lot of points. You have a lot of comments here. Perhaps a call would give you the opportunity to get all your points out. Rukia says Ghanaians didn't appreciate Nanado in 2020. That was why their parliamentary seats reduced massively. The vote of Nana reduced from 1 million in 2016 to 500,000, which is coming from Rukia Abubakari. Thank you so much. Rukia also made some comments earlier on that I see I'm trying to get. IMF is asking Ghana to further do haircuts, which more hashes to the citizens. I think she meant to say which bring more hashes to the citizens. But thank you, Rukia. The other comment from Rukia says the 2,000 staffers are all taken from the taxpayer and classified as Article 79 holders. So if eventually is calling in, please go ahead, my brother.
Yes, I was. How are you?
You know, we are bubbling. We are talking Ghana, and it's always fun. It's always inspiring and hopeful. You know, when we discuss these issues. Go ahead, my brother.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I think that Evans is doing great, but next time when he's meeting and done, he should come well prepared. So when I'm talking about social intervention, I'm talking about a policy that you can go everywhere in Ghana, like say the health insurance policy, right? You know, and by the way, I believe health and education in every country, even if it's not free, should be affordable. So the country has to do whatever it takes to do it. Now, if you come to America, the affordable care, right? They still have challenges with it. So if it is the idea that everybody should go to school, that the people that are not able to should go and affordable. So how we do it and the challenges are something that the nation takes up. And everywhere globally you go, people are struggling to deal with all these things. But the bottom line is that the leaders have seen this as a problem and they're fixing that. So when I'm talking about policy, I'm not talking about something you do, maybe somebody may never, ever, ever benefit. And in any case, he mentions agreement as a social intervention policy. Go and ask him if the affordable thing they say, it goes to the people that cannot. You're talking about poor.
I have a question for Ifa too. Okay, before he goes.
Yeah. So you see, the issue is that they are social democrats. Now, when you say you are a social democrat, you think of the poor. But you see, free SHS, go and check the adverts, the lies. You see, at one breath, they say they started it. On one breast, it is a scam. It can never be done. No, we are lying. We are this. From when we talked about the policy to its implementation till today. Now, me and you sitting here, we know that if not for the free SHS, some poor people will never have seen education up to a certain level in the country. And we are talking about people that, because of this policy, are places where they jojo with the big shots in the society. And what do you do to this policy? Now, you bring in your alternatives and you tell us what you will do better. You are telling us that, because you have the infrastructure. Do you know the amount of infrastructure we put in place, even with the double track that they were poo-pooing and giving it all sorts of names? So you say,
can you name some of the infrastructure that you had put in place?
So here is what we've done. I don't have the data here to specifically tell you, but almost all the secondary schools. You see, this is our policy, right? Now, say if you take the eastern region and you go to a particular constituency, a particular place where there are about 5 secondary schools, and then they need a dormitory. When you provide a dormitory and the students are there, other facilities are always there. Now, what these people, what the NDC did was that no. Let's go and put a completely different structure somewhere where you're going to need a car, you're going to need a headmaster, you're going to need all these kind of stuff. And that is what we do. Now, our argument is that the number of e-blocks that they are talking about now, since we've been in power, we have built more classrooms combined than they have done. Now, they completed about 29. When we came, we have completed more than 30 of them. It's a matter of records. You think we don't care about education?
So you have not necessarily put up infrastructures per se, but you have increased the number of classrooms, which.
Oh, but what is infrastructure?
But if I put up a structure, if I put up a school building that can take about 1,000 students, and I have 20 classrooms, and you come and you make room within my infrastructure to accommodate more students.
No. The existing ones, not yours.
Okay.
Yours were not, most of them were not completed. Remember, they started with about over 120 something, and they were able to complete 29. And when we came, some of them were advanced stages, we completed them. Okay, so that they will be able to, pick up and stuff like that. But the bottom line is that when, let's say if you take Achimota, right? Achimota Secondary School, they need a dormitory. And if the dormitory is going to need it will add about 200 more schools to it. Why do you say that, no, let me go for a new completely? It doesn't make economic and value money sense to do that. But if that is what they think is their policy, that is perfectly fine.
Okay,
you know what I mean?
All right. So to be clear, right, to make it very clear, right, because of time, NDC communicator Evans, the communicator for who is representing NDC here in the United States, Evans SARFO Edu, is saying that John Mahama and the NDC government put up certain infrastructure, and he made mention of them, at least 5 of them, right? He specifically mentioned them. So what I'm saying is that can the NPP government, whom you and Daniel is represented here in the United States, mention maybe 5 or 3 specific names?
Okay.
Just like he did.
You ready?
Are you able to? Yes, I'm ready.
Okay. So when we go to the road sector, right? They built. I stand to be corrected though, because again, I'm just calling. I don't have. They built about 4 or 5 interchanges. We're building close to 11 interchanges.
Now, can you give us the names from which area in Ghana, which part of Ghana?
Okay, in Accra, right? In Accra, we have the Pokwasi interchange.
Okay.
We have the Obicha Bilamte, the Dankwa Circle. We have, I think, about 2 or 3 is in Tema. There's one at I forget the specific names, but in Accra alone, Accra Tema area, we have about 5, 7 interchanges. There's one in Tamale, there's one in the eastern region, all over the country. Now go to the railway sector. Have you seen the infrastructure? Have you seen the pictures of the infrastructure over there? I will be pumping all these kind of information to you. Okay. Now the Somenya University.
Somenya University. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So
put that together.
Now, because we only have 5 minutes. We only have 5 minutes. So please quickly.
Let me add. The University of Ghana Medical Center and the Kumasi Kejetia Market. Okay. You see, there was the first phase that was completed. It was not operationalized.
Okay.
It is like giving birth to a baby, and then you don't think about school fees and all that stuff. The staff, the machinery, their operations, and how you put people into one, it became to do with, and then completed the phase 2. Okay. Are you getting the point? We
yes.
have to go source money to come and complete it.
Okay.
So it is not, sometimes it is not true that, I built this, I built that. No. They started up to a point.
Okay.
Policy. And then we have to come in. The same for this thing. Now, let me also tell you, during their time, the people were not even buying a Central Goldfield for even $1. It was in the market for $1. Nobody. But we've come, going to source money, and we've operationalized it, employing a lot of people.
Okay. Yeah, Daniel, because of I said Daniel, because of time.
You come here and give us doom, so you come here and tell us that you've chewed the meat to the bone and you want to come again. It should come. We are ready for you.
Okay,
thank you.
You're welcome. Evans,
Yeah.
because of time, please wrap it up for us. Okay.
Yeah, let me tell him that the key indicators for Kumasi. I went to Boko High School. Okay, I lived in Kumasi. Ofori Chrome and Swam Interchange, the one at Sofo line, they are not happening according to the Ashanti Regional Minister. They won't happen. Maybe Mahama will come and do it because he's done it before for Ashanti, the people of Ashanti region. And let me tell my brother, those are just on paper. In today's Ghana, the money doesn't go from the finance minister. It doesn't go. They are all, policies on paper. Ghanaians don't see value in those things because the investment that is supposed to go from the national coffers doesn't go. And we are not children. These things are all lies on paper. NPP is not taking money to feed these social intervention schemes that were there before. So it's a lie. My brother should tell me the last time he went to a hospital and used the NHIS card in Ghana. My parents go to hospital, they pay money out of pocket. So what is he talking about? It doesn't work.
Okay. So that is Evan's response to Ifa's call earlier. And Rukia sent a comment earlier, and I would like to go through it real quick. NPP never brought health insurance nationwide. They came with mutual health insurance, which one can access only when you are a member of a particular district. It was NDC and Atamils that made it a nationwide health insurance. So NPP cannot claim the implementation of national health insurance. And then the other comment that she made when Ifa was on the call is that it's not true that Nanado completed any of the E-block. They are completely abandoned. Okay. And then lastly, she said, all the interchanges you are mentioning are JM project. Okay. Gentlemen, I thought we were going to do just an hour, at most an hour and a half. But as usual, when it comes to issues of the motherland, we never seem to not have enough time, and that is good. And I really appreciate the comments and the contributions from my great guests so far, Daniel, Nanaya, Asari, Aponsa, and Ivan Safo Edu so far. For your really appreciate you guys. In less than 30 seconds, I'll have Nanaya give us your closing remarks, please.
Yeah, Sana, thank you. And my first time meeting Evans, I'm really impressed with him. I know the NDC have some very good brains, and I will always encourage that they put on their best foot forward and stop a lot of the noise from the other people that just are into politics and don't even understand the issues that we are talking about. Even if you give them a role today, they won't even know what to do. And bring people like this who have experience, who know what you're talking about, so that together they can project the NDC and project their best foot. And I think that is good for Ghana, so that I don't feel uneasy if tomorrow another party is in power, because I know they have people that are there that can do the job. You get what I'm trying to say? But at this level, and what I see in the NDC, I'm not very comfortable if I hand them an economy like Ghana that is of bigger size, whether they can manage it when they cannot even collate their own results.
Nana Evans.
Tell my brother Daniel that for the first time, maybe in election 2024, we're going to collect the results in real time for the NDC, and maybe by midnight, we already know our votes. Yeah, and talking about my last closing remarks, see where I started, where you were asking me about the message from Ghana today. It's all about sadness. There's no good news coming from the motherland. It's all about poverty, stress. Schools are opened. Parents are struggling how to pay fees. Those are the headache. And John Mama is going around, he's the only hope for Ghana now, speaking to the people. You see the followers that he's getting now as he's doing his campaign. These are not just MPP, NDC people. These are independent Ghanaians who have seen the difference. Those following John Mama are not just NDC people. They are independent Ghanaian and floating voters that have seen that he's the only hope for Ghana. Thank you. Thanks, listeners, and thank you, guys. I appreciate the opportunity.
We appreciate you guys so much, my brothers, and this has been great, and I am looking forward to a continuous conversations, because with dialogue we can change the destiny of our people and make our country a better place for the future generation. We also understand that as we go along, our leaders, we are also hopeful that as we go along, our leaders will make changes that will not only be to the benefit of Ghanaians, but to the sub-region and to everybody that comes into Ghana. Thank you once again. We appreciate our audience for staying with us in spite of the technical challenges. We're working behind the scenes. And so we are encouraging you to donate to us, which because we are 501c, because the more we're able to, the more funding we get, the more we're able to improve on our equipment. So we can, of course, enhance our programming. So that said, Efa and anyone and all of you, Efa and Rukia, thank you so much for your contributions. And of course, to our audience, if I did not see you, typically, if I, let me see, typically I see my, some of the followers on Facebook, and I'm trying to see if we have some here. If I'm not mentioning your name, it's not on purpose. It's probably because I can see you on the feed. And so with that said, next week we shall be here. Next week, Wednesday, next week, Tuesday, we'll be here with another very important conversation regarding our communities. Once again, have a wonderful evening, Daniel and Evans. We look forward to seeing you here again.
Yep. Thanks, Senna. Thanks, Daniel. We'll talk on the side. Thank you. Thank
Remember, remember to tune in and subscribe to the Progressive Mind Show. We have live on Facebook Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter every Tuesday from 6 to 8 p.m. Central, Sundays from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Central. And you can also subscribe once you're on our pages, like the page, and encourage friends. Talk to friends and family about what we are doing here, and encourage them to subscribe and follow us as well. We also want to encourage you to be part of the conversation, because this platform is the one that encourages voices, different opinions, and perspectives to the things that matter to us. My name is Senna. I've been your host, and we shall be here coming Tuesday between 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. To whom much is given, much is required. See you next week. Bye-bye.